Hello. Thank you all for showing up. Apparently, it's an interesting topic. My name is Christian Walter. I'm the head of Swiss-made software, and I'm going to talk to you today about the AI hype. Now, I've changed the title of my presentation on short notice. It's now called "Nothing is Hallucinated, Everything is Stolen." As this is a short speech, I only have 15 minutes. I can only offer the top view of some very complex topics. But I have added a large list of resources at the end of the presentation. We'll, of course, share all the presentations after we're done for everybody who wants to dig deeper, and which, in opposition to the currently prevalent models, means that my data set is completely transparent. Okay? Good. First of all, we've all been here before. This is not our first rodeo. This is not our last hype cycle. This is very important because I'm sure some of you remember that one. Please imagine the music. You all know the movie. The list could be extremely long of things I list here. And we should be mindful of this because we're in a very hype-driven industry. And we should all step back from that from time to time and try to look at the reality of it. So, first question maybe we should ask ourselves, why is this happening now? A lot of people will say, oh, the product is mature now and it's being released, right? I think there's a few other reasons for this. First of all, and most important, I think, is this one. Interest rates are rising, yeah? Which means money isn't free anymore. This is really important because it means bye-bye unicorns. A lot of the big multi-billion-dollar value businesses that have been built in IT over the last 10, 15 years, they will go away now, if they haven't already, or they'll crawl under the umbrella of Microsoft or some company like that, because these are businesses that never had to produce any kind of profit. This is enormously important for the future. I mean, beyond AI, for all areas of industry, this is going to be really big, unless the interest rates come down again, of course. In that case, I'm wrong. But currently, it doesn't look like that. Also, what's really important, and this is something everybody should think about, is if you entered the industry, say in finance, you became a VC 15 years ago, that means you entered the industry at a time when money was basically free. You have no investment experience with interest rates. You have no clue what that means. And a lot of people actually know what that means. In the meantime, have gone into retirement. Yeah, they're gone. And it's a bit like, I read like the best explanation, it's like the return of gravity if you've been told that gravity doesn't exist. Of course, this happened, crypto crashed, the metaverse imploded, and Alexa won't be telling you how hot you are anytime soon anymore. And the list of technologies I could add here is longer than my arm. You know, self-driving cars, NFT, pick your topic. Now, what does that mean? All this stuff has disappeared. There's a giant empty space, a vacuum now. And as we all know, nature abhors a vacuum. So do marketers, VCs, and tech bros. So what we need is the next big thing, but don't believe the hype. Okay, it's really important to step back from all of this. Of course, this slide is not 100% correct. You know, I mean, learn how tricks are used to sell bullshit ideas. This is really important for everybody. Identify misinformation, very important, and then learn about science and nutrition. I left that in there. I think it's generally good advice. Okay, so at the top of the interest pyramid right now, where's the most attention? Of course, large language models, right? So before we dive into that, what they are and what they can do, we should maybe look at what they are not. And before I go in there, let me first state, I think this is a very groundbreaking technology. There'll be lots of interesting applications in the future people will talk about for many years to come. But I don't think it's going to be what we read in the headlines right now, which is, again, you know, what happens in every hype cycle. Also, I think it's very important for all of us to get away from marketing terms and overall, like this is magic or something like it. It's not. And one good example, I think, that's very easy to prove is like everybody who's been selling you big data for the last 10 years is more or less selling you the same thing now, only in the sales presentations you find AI, AI, AI. And most important of all, it's not human. This is very important. I know there's going to be a controversial discussion about this later on, I'm pretty sure. But again, we should stop attributing human qualities to a bunch of numbers, because it takes away our ability to think critically about it. These AIs, they don't have aspirations, they don't have dreams, they don't have will, they don't want stuff. We want stuff, and then we make the AI do stuff. Maybe not what we wanted, but it does things because we originally wanted something. The result might look a little different, but that's a reality. Also, it's important to imagine this: if a couple of years down the road, all of humanity dies, well, the Black Death 3.0 hits, everybody's dead. These machines will not start their own civilization and reach for the stars. They go on standby. So again, what are they? Large language models. Essentially, it's autocomplete. You know, every time you type a message on your phone and you're like angry because it's saying stuff like, for example, you call your baby, you want to write a message to your babysitter. Can you sit, right? And then it completes on my face. That's probably not what you want. On the other hand, it's autocomplete on steroids. So this is actually really important. There's a difference here. Or as Stephen Wolfram said, it's just adding one word at a time, because this is really essentially what it's doing. There's a resource there in the back. You can read this one. Essentially, this is what it's doing. And also what's really important to step away from the awe of the technology is that there's no trust in itself inside of the technology. As you all know, ChatGPT-4 was just released. And again, once again, we know very little about the training data. But one thing they have openly admitted is they were very careful to exclude all the results of previous generations of AIs. So they didn't want, in the training data, outputs of the previous generations, that you're distrusting your own technology because you know it'll poison the next generation. And what you call that is, I call it the HubSpot AI. I mean, not me, I got this from the, like I said, everything is stolen. Yeah? Because it's a very bad idea to marry your own cousin. Look at European royalty for a few generations. I'll come back to this in a minute. You know, again, there's a live issue here, but the best new definition, again, this is just to kind of make you step away from the magic feeling of it all, is let's call it a salami, not an AI. Some guy in Italy came up with this, and it's systematic approaches to learning algorithms and machine inferences, which is actually pretty good. And to see how this works, try this, okay? Is this AI intelligent? Can this AI write a novel? Does this AI deserve human rights? Okay, these are questions you will find in a lot of articles, more or less. You know? Now try this. Is this salami intelligent? Can this salami write a novel? Does this salami deserve human rights? I really invite you to take a moment, maybe later on. I mean, everybody who's interested in AI has a favorite article. Take that article, copy paste, replace AI with salami, read it again. I'm sure you will come out with a different point of view. Okay. Also, very important question. I mean, this is a question you have to always ask yourself. You know, who profits? Cui bono? Who are the people behind the marketing hype? And I've picked two because everybody knows them. Peter, competition is for suckers, Thiel. And Elon, I bought Twitter for 40 billion. Now it's maybe worth 8. Musk. Obvious geniuses. And coincidentally, people who are also early investors in OpenAI, which, as someone quipped, is neither open nor artificial nor intelligent. It's the thing with language. And I could add like hundreds, like with the products earlier. It's the usual list of tech bros. And these people have been at what they're doing for 20 years. This is less about the technology than about, you know, making money by any means necessary. And what they're doing is, I call that narrative imposition. This is really important because they're telling us a story. And on average, it goes something like this. A fantasized AI-enabled utopia or apocalypse which promises a flourishing or potentially catastrophic future. So, and we all have to kind of deal with that. And you have the deer in the headlights effect. You know, you freeze like this is, oh God, right? Either it's a utopia and it's great, or we all die. And the best way to deal with this is, of course, let these guys take care of it. Don't ask questions. We've heard this before. And this is truly harmful because while we're supposed to adopt in our heads to this imagined future and, you know, assume the position, so to speak, we miss the chance to deal with the very real problems of the present. you're busy with something that might never happen, and at the same time you miss the opportunity to go to the toilet, right? We know how that ends. Okay, so few examples here. Why this is problematic. Data theft for the profit of the few. I mean, this is a reality. I'm not going to go into this in detail. Worker exploitation. This is important, but not for the usual reasons. I mean, you can say this is bad, or maybe that's the way of life. But I think this is also something to think about when you want to go away from the overall of technology. Because I think a lot of the magic appeal of AI comes from the prompt, right? You sit in front of your computer, there's the prompt, and you input your little question, and then it produces a work of art or a 20-page essay in seconds. Wow, magic, right? And this only happens because you don't see the extended human supply chain at the back end, which is usually third world countries where literally thousands of people work to shape the data into a form that can be used to train the data. And all this magic doesn't happen without these people who are paid $1 an hour. So it's not that magical after all. Also, CO2. I've heard we have something like global warming. And these models, they require, as they become bigger, ever more energy. This means ever more CO2 that gets put into the air. And also you have to constantly update it, like ChatGPT-4, like some general purpose, supposedly, salami. You have to constantly retrain the thing because it will not know what has happened recently. It's blind to that. This is just one example, there are many. And finally, really important, synthetic media, because all the outputs are very close to fake news, a topic that has been laundered through the media now for the last couple of years. And it's not labeled correctly. If it comes from a machine, we don't see it. And this is really important. French philosopher Jean Baudrillard came up with the concept of the simulacrum. The simulacrum is the copy without an original. So if you imagine an old school photocopy machine, you take a piece of paper, you put it on the copy machine, you press photocopy, it comes out. It's like 99% correct, which is fine if you're a teacher and you want to copy the test for your pupils. But now you do that again. You take the copy, you put it on the printer. You do the copy. You do it again and again and again. You do it 100 times. At the end, you'll have something that looks very, very different from the original. So you'll have a copy, but you can't really delineate where it came from. It's not possible anymore. And if you want to take this into the space of AI, another metaphor you can use, it's a blurry JPEG of the internet. Because what happens is, essentially, you take a snapshot of the internet, you compress it, you get your result. And this wanders back onto the internet. And then when you take the next snapshot, this stuff is already there. And you do it again. Again, it wanders out. And you keep on compressing things. And this is not a good idea. There's a lot of stuff where you don't want lossy compression. Healthcare, for example. Some stuff, this is good. But in general, it's not the best idea to just do everything like this. A bit more practical, what's also important and very, for the appeal of the technology, it wasn't me. Because you can shift responsibility while supposedly saving money. Saying like you can use this in the judicial system, healthcare, unemployment, job applications, and so on. I'll give you a real example. If you're in the US and you go to court, when you're in front of the judge, in many places, the judge is given a score. Let's say it's from 1 to 10. That's the likelihood of you reoffending. That means committing another crime. Okay? So there was this guy, he had stolen some tools. He went in front of the judge. He had priors. He was rated a 6. Okay? At the same time, there was a teenage girl who also went in front of the judge. She had stolen, borrowed a trotti, push square, and you go away. She was rated 10. As a result of this, she never reoffended, by the way. As a result of this, she's still problems finding a job because she's now in the system. The other guy, 2 years later, was arrested, put in prison for burglary, breaking and entering, and some other stuff. Take a guess which one of the two was black. Okay? Now you can say, okay, this is not the US, and I'm not black, and I don't care. You should think about this because there's a tried formula for this. You take a new technology, you apply it to a vulnerable group. And that means children, prisoners, refugees, people in a call center. And then what you do is you move it up the salary chain. So technology that was originally built to surveil people in the Amazon warehouse is now watching you in your home. I think what's also, this is a really good quote, I like this one, which also leads back to something I said in the beginning. The hype of powerful digital minds by design ascribes agency to the products rather than the organizations building them. Again, it's about shifting responsibility. It's not us, it's the technology. I don't know why it's doing that, but it's really good, please buy it. And again, this is about ascribing human characteristics to the technology. It's not, it's just a bunch of numbers. So, and this is really important, now we're coming to the end, is we are building something like a hyper-bureaucracy here. It's a system of no appeals, because these algorithms will be used in every area of life and nobody will know what it is about. Because there's no transparency in the system. Why is the algorithm doing? What's the training data? How was the training data shaped? Is it good quality training data? But it's not an inherent feature in the technology. It doesn't have to be like this. The real question is, how do we use the technology? What do we choose? Yeah, because there's like all kinds of salamis in the world, you know, the good ones and the bad ones, the ones you eat and the ones that do other stuff. And it's a choice we can make. Also, what's important, against lock-in and centralization of power. If we truly want to use these tools in creative and beneficial ways, one thing we can do is, for example, we can only use open data sets. We can make this mandatory. The companies need to disclose where they got the data from, and if the data quality is good, they have to prove this. Another one is include people at the receiving end to build, you know, different kinds of salamis. Then support the people who do the criticizing. There's a lot of smart people out there who don't want to spend their whole time just criticizing the models pushed by Peter Thiel, you know. These people would rather spend their time building alternative models. All they need is money. And finally, really important, I mean, just in general, put some skin in the game. I mean, this is a huge problem we all have. It doesn't matter where. The people who want us to use a certain technology should be held responsible if it all goes to hell. Credit Suisse, anybody? Yeah, because everybody in this room will be paying for this, unless we change it. And what can we do? Finally, in Switzerland, we have top talent, we have great companies, and we should try to do this locally with the aim of solving the problems in the present, so we can build the future we want to imagine and not follow the vision of some foreign oligarch. Thank you.